Hello everybody. It was 10 days ago that I took side shoots off these Crimson Crush tomato plants here and planted them into these module trays. Each module in this is roughly the size of a 3-inch pot, and they did what I expected. They flopped automatically because if you're taking the roots away from them, I mean, if you take a side shoot off, if I can find a decent one, there we go, it's got no roots on it, it's just as it is, but we've got the fine hairs on the stem of that and they turn into roots, so I'm not going to waste that. I shall plant that, and that's as simple as it gets. But over a period of time, they start to build out those roots and turn themselves into a tomato plant, a mini-me of the mother plant. And after about 3 or 4 days, they started to become less floppy, and it was after 7 days I noticed there was a flower starting to form on this plant here, and they had some sort of turgidity to them, some rigidity. They were resistant. Now they're sort of fully formed and very resistant, and they've also got roots coming out of the bottom of them. And if I pop one out, there we go, it came out relatively easy. You can see there's the start of a root ball, but it's not yet fully formed. But that, as it is good enough to plant, and it's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and put that into the test tunnel out the back there and fill that bed up with these now. So here's the testing tunnel, and you saw me plant all this stuff last week, or there's a video, and I'll put a link just up above if you want to see what I've done there. But this is the bed that I'm now planting the Crimson Crush in, and I'm going to stagger plant them so that there's essentially 2 rows but staggered. You can see the 3 holes there. We're just going to plant up this bed, and then this tunnel is done. Now, as I said earlier, these plants have only been in here, these side shoots, for 10 days, and as such there's not a great deal root, if any, and you can see there that there's nothing showing on there, but the fact that the plant is upright and fairly rigid tells me that there are roots inside. So just got to be a little bit careful with planting them, and I've no doubt that 1 or 2 of these will fall apart as I'm taking them out of the tray. That's just normal, but I'd rather have them in the ground than sat in a tray and they can be getting on with it. So just a little bit of care is needed. You see that one's got some roots on the outside. You know, another day or 2 and that one would have been showing roots, but they could show roots to the soil here. Just a tiny bit of root on that one. The sooner they get used to the conditions in here, the better. And they should thrive in here now. It's a good sized tunnel. I'm going to carry on and do this whole bed. Now, I do think that these actually grow a whole lot better than your normal plants. If you think about it, a normal plant, and if you look over here, the growth is really spaced out from where we've sort of drawn the plant up during its early life. And with these, this growth is fairly low down, so you'll get a fruiting truss almost at this level, so you'll get extra fruit. And these side shoots, I believe, grow with far more vigour than these plants. I don't know what it is about them. Maybe they've got a small complex and they're thinking I'm going to beat my mother, but they get off really well, and they're just a very strong and vigorous plant. So I think they often outperform the main mother plants. But there we go, I'm going to fill this whole bed now, and that'll be it. So there we have it. I've got 10 plants in there, all side shoots from the Crimson Crush. Now, these are still putting roots out, as you just saw, that they're still not fully developed. So it's going to be another week, maybe 2 weeks before their roots get out into the soil properly and the plants get going. But then they'll just power off and they'll far overtake these ones that are behind me. But for now, that's that done. I can just start watering them as I can with the rest of the tunnel, and we're off and running. This tunnel is done. I've still got some work to do on this tunnel, work that I never got completed last year, but that's by the by, and little jobs that I need to do. Right, I've just finished planting my sweet corn, and this is an F1 variety called Incredible, and it's not too late to sow now. You can get early, mid and late season sweet corn varieties, so you just need to go and read your seed catalogues and decide which variety you want to grow. One word of warning though, if you're in a garden situation where your gardens are really close to your neighbours and they're growing sweet corn, try if you can to agree on the same variety, if it's at all possible, simply because you can get cross-pollination problems. If I was going to grow another variety of sweet corn here, I would grow it right down the back of the plot, out of the way. Because these are, as these grow and the flowers come, the pollen shakes and comes off, and it can go and cross-pollinate another crop, and you don't want that happening. But I'm only growing the one patch this year, no problems, and they're reasonably spaced here. But one problem you've got to be aware of is that these are very shallow rooted, and once the wind gets to them and starts doing this, once the roots are getting out into the ground, you can snap the roots, and that can be detrimental to your plants. It won't do as well, and you'll also find that you'll get roots coming out of the bottom of the stem into the ground, and if you can, just earth them up a little bit like that, just to cover them over and keep them viable. And the best thing you can do with these young plants, because I'm in a fairly exposed site here, is surrounding me. You can see I've already got part of my hot box up, and I'll put the rest of it on, and I'll put the lid on as well. The lid will create like a greenhouse effect and speed these plants' early growth. And once these have reached the lid, which will be up here, I'll take the lid off and let them carry on growing. I don't really want that wind rock, and we are quite susceptible to wind here. Now, as far as crop rotation goes, I could plant sweet corn there every year as long as the soil's got the nutrition for them. No problem with repeat sowings. They are a grass, so they don't fall into any of the crop rotation principles that you may or may not know about already. So no worries about where you plant them. If you can give them somewhere protected, even better. If you can't get them somewhere protected, give them some protection like these panels that I'm going to put on in a minute, and you should be good to go. Good rich ground, plenty of feed and water, and you should be right. Now, it's not too late to sow sweet corn. You can sow it now, right the way up until the end of the month, really. Sow 2 or 3 seeds in each location. If you can soak them beforehand overnight in warmish water, that will help as well. It will swell the seed up and speed that germination up. Then when they come up, just delete all the weak ones, leave the strongest one in each location. If you're going to sow rows, you want about at least a minimum of 3 rows close together, because you want them in a block later on for the pollination of those plants. So don't forget that. And if you're on an exposed site, give them some protection to protect against the wind rock. Don't forget to subscribe. You can follow my journey with the sweet corn and some other useful information I'll have coming up as the season goes on, and to follow the trial, the fertigation trial that I'm doing in that tunnel, so you'll see all the management of that, the feeding, the growth and the harvest of that as well. And you might as well subscribe. It's free, doesn't cost you anything. All you're doing is clicking a button. That's all I ask you to do. Just click that red button and it's done, and you'll get notified whenever I post new content. But for today, that's it. Look after yourselves, everyone. Please stay safe. I'll see you all very, very soon. Ta-ra now.